There are words that cut deeper than any blade. Words that stay with you long after they're spoken. For me, those words were said at a family dinner when I was 29 years old. My father looked at me across a table full of relatives and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Let's be honest, Harper is the failure of this family." Not as a joke. Not as tough love. As a fact he wanted everyone to acknowledge. And in that moment, sitting there with 30 pairs of eyes on me, I made a decision. I was done seeking his approval. I'm Harper Nguyen. 29 years old. The youngest of 3 children and the one who never quite measured up. My older brother Kevin is an investment banker. Makes 7 figures. Lives in a Manhattan penthouse. My sister Melissa is a corporate lawyer. Partner at her firm by 32. The whole package. And then there's me. I'm a UX designer. User experience. I design interfaces that millions of people use every day. But to my father, a first-generation Vietnamese immigrant who built success through traditional business, what I did was incomprehensible and therefore worthless. Growing up, I was the artsy one. The one who drew instead of studied business. The one who chose design school over law school. When are you going to get serious? My father would ask. When are you going to do something real? I tried to explain that design was real. That tech companies paid enormous salaries for good designers. But he'd wave his hand. Playing with colors on a computer isn't a career, Harper. It's a hobby. For years, I kept my head down. Worked my way up from junior designer to lead designer. I worked for startups that went public. For apps that became household names. But my father never understood it. Never valued it. At every family gathering, he'd introduce Kevin as my son the banker and Melissa as my daughter the attorney and me as Harper. She does something with computers. 6 months ago, something changed. A major social media company reached out. They were redesigning their entire platform and wanted me to lead the project. As a consultant. The offer was staggering. A 6-month contract worth $2.4 million. Plus equity. Plus the prestige of having my name attached to a redesign affecting over 2 billion users. I negotiated for 3 weeks and signed. It was the kind of opportunity that defined careers. But I didn't tell my family. I wanted to prove to myself it was real before sharing it with people who'd spent my entire life telling me my work didn't matter. I worked 16-hour days for 3 months. When the first phase launched, the response was overwhelming. Tech blogs praised it. Users loved it. Industry leaders called it revolutionary. My name was suddenly everywhere in design circles. I was invited to speak at conferences. To write for major publications. I'd arrived. That's when my mother called about the family reunion. Your father's 60th birthday, she said. Everyone will be there. All the aunts and uncles. I hesitated. These gatherings were always the same. But it was his birthday. So I said yes. But this time I had something to show them. The reunion was at a restaurant my father had rented out. 50 people. 3 generations. I arrived carrying my bag with the contract folder inside. Kevin was already holding court. Melissa was showing off photos of her vacation home. And I stood at the edge, waiting for someone to notice I'd arrived. Dinner was the usual performance. My father stood at the head of the table, giving a speech about family and success. He talked about how proud he was of his children. Well, he said, gesturing to Kevin and Melissa, most of them. Kevin's building an empire. Melissa's making partner was just the beginning. They're the future of this family. Then my uncle called out, "What about Harper?" My father's expression shifted. Harper, he said slowly, works with computers. Does design things. He paused, fine for her. She's always been more creative than ambitious. The table went quiet. Let's be honest, he said, his voice carrying. Kevin and Melissa are successful. They have real careers. Harper is, he looked directly at me, the failure of this family. And that's okay. Not everyone can be exceptional. The failure of this family. He said it like he was commenting on the weather. I felt my face flush. Heard gasps around the table. My mother looked at her plate. And I sat there as 30 people stared at me with pity. Something inside me clarified. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. I stood up. Dad, I said, my voice steady. Can I show you something? He frowned. Now? Yes, I said. Now. I walked to the head of the table and placed the folder in front of him. What is this? Open it, I said. He opened it slowly. His eyes scanned the first page. Then the second. I watched his expression change. Confusion. Shock. This is, he started. A contract, I finished. Between me and one of the largest social media companies in the world. For a 6-month consulting project to redesign their entire user interface. The room was silent. The contract, I continued calmly, is worth $2.4 million. Upfront. Plus equity options worth approximately another $1 million. Plus creative control and credit on the project. My uncle's jaw dropped. Kevin stared. Melissa's mouth hung open. My father just sat there, the contract trembling in his hands. But that's not all, I said. The project launched 2 weeks ago. It's being used by 2 billion people. Tech publications are calling it one of the most significant redesigns of the decade. I've been offered 3 more contracts. My projected income for the next 2 years is over $8 million. I pulled out my phone and opened a news article. Industry leader Harper revolutionizes social media design. I turned the screen toward him. That's me, I said. That's what the failure of the family has accomplished. He looked up, his face pale. Harper, he stammered. I held up my hand. You've spent my entire life telling me what I do doesn't matter. That I'm not successful. That I don't have a real career. You've dismissed my work because you didn't understand it. Because it didn't fit your narrow definition of success. But here's the truth, I continued. I've worked on apps that Kevin uses every day. Platforms that Melissa's firm relies on. My work affects more lives than both of them combined. But you never asked about it. Never tried to understand. Never once thought that maybe I knew what I was doing. I turned back to my father. So yes, I said quietly. I'm the failure. The one who didn't follow your path. I'm the failure who just signed a $2.4 million contract at 29. The failure who's being called an industry leader. The failure who built a career doing something she loves and is brilliant at. I picked up the folder. And you know what? I don't need your approval anymore. I don't need you to understand what I do. I don't need you to be proud. Because I'm proud of myself. And that's enough. I slid the contract back into my bag. I love you, Mom, I said to my crying mother. But I can't keep being humiliated. I looked at Kevin and Melissa. You're both successful. I'm happy for you. But your success doesn't diminish mine. We can all be exceptional in different ways. I looked at my father one last time. Happy birthday, Dad. I hope you're proud of the children who meet your expectations. Because I'm done trying to be one of them. And then I walked out. The fallout was immediate. My phone exploded with messages. My mother called 17 times. Kevin texted asking if we could talk. My sister sent a long message saying she was sorry. I ignored most of them. I needed space. 3 days later, Kevin showed up at my apartment. That was the bravest thing I've ever seen, he said. I didn't feel brave, I said. I felt angry. He nodded. You should be angry. We threw you under the bus to stay in his good graces. He looked exhausted. Are you happy? I asked. He laughed bitterly. I work 80 hours a week at a job I hate. I'm on blood pressure medication at 34. But Dad's proud. So it's worth it, right? We talked for an hour. About boundaries. About defining success on your own terms. When he left, he hugged me. I'm proud of you, Harper. You're incredible. A week later, Melissa called. I need to apologize, she said. For watching you get hurt and doing nothing. Then she told me she'd quit her job. Started her own practice focusing on nonprofit work. Things that actually matter to me, she said. If Dad can't accept that, that's his problem. My father didn't call. But my mother did, 2 weeks later. Can we meet for coffee? Your father is devastated, she said when we met. He should be, I replied. She took my hand. I watched him diminish you for years. I should have protected you. I'm so sorry. I don't know if I can forgive him, I said. I'm not asking you to, she replied. Just don't disappear from my life. From Kevin's. From Melissa's. I thought about it. Okay, I said. But things are different now. I'm not coming to events where he'll be. If you want a relationship with me, it's on my terms. She nodded. Whatever you need. 2 months later, my project fully launched. The response was massive. Forbes did a profile. I was invited to speak worldwide. And every achievement felt sweeter because I'd stopped caring what my father thought. 3 months after the dinner, I ran into my father at a coffee shop. Can we talk? He asked. I have 10 minutes, I said. He stirred his coffee for a long time. I was wrong, he finally said. About your career. About calling you a failure. I came to this country with nothing. I thought success had to look a certain way. Anything else felt like failure. But you built something I don't understand. You succeeded without my approval. Without needing me. And that scared me. I was cruel. And I'm sorry. I don't know if we can fix this, I said. I don't know either, he said. But I'd like to try. We start over, I said. From zero. You stop comparing me to Kevin and Melissa. And if you ever dismiss my work again, I walk away permanently. Deal, he said. And Harper? I'm proud of you. I should have said it 1,000 times. But I'm saying it now. It's been 6 months since that dinner. My relationship with my father is slowly rebuilding. We have coffee once a month. It's not perfect. But it's honest. Kevin quit banking. Started a nonprofit. Melissa's civil rights practice is thriving. Neither care anymore if Dad approves. I'm 30 now. Still designing. Still pushing boundaries. But more than that, I'm building a life on my terms. Where my worth isn't defined by someone else's limited imagination. If you've ever been called a failure by someone who couldn't see your brilliance, this story is for you. If you've ever walked away from people who diminished you, you know how I felt. But here's what I learned. The moment you stop seeking approval from people who'll never give it is the moment you become who you were always meant to be. Comment your city below and tell me, have you ever had to prove your worth to someone who should have seen it all along? Subscribe for more stories about people who stopped explaining themselves and started living unapologetically. Because sometimes, the best response to being called a failure isn't defending yourself. It's succeeding so brilliantly that their opinion becomes irrelevant.